Hey guys, it's Taco Freak here, and welcome to episode 40 of my custom story creation tutorial for Amnesia Rebirth. And today we're going to talk about animations, and it's definitely an anticipated topic that a lot of people have been waiting for. We're going to kind of cover the basics of playing an animation, talking about how you can see them and mess around with them. And we're also going to be talking about cutscenes in the following episode, because playing animations, there are some that are not really designed to be played. Rather, some are meant for cutscenes and following the player with the camera. And I'll explain that a little bit further into the episode. Mainly when we go over cutscenes, it'll make perfect sense in the next episode. But for now, we're going to go ahead and talk about how we can go ahead and see some of these animations, play them, and kind of get started with playing around with some animations. So let's go ahead and get started. So first thing I want to do before we start writing any code or anything like that, let's go ahead and open the root directory of the Amnesia Rebirth folder here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into entities, we're going to go character, and then we're going to go ahead and go to player here. Although you can see all the other entities like ghouls and the wraith and stuff. So we're going to go ahead and just go to player though, and we're going to go to player body here. And in here are the player entities that are used in the game. So for example, there's the default player, which is just player. There's like player 4, which I believe is 4-month pregnant Tassie. They call it player 4, player 6, player 9. So you got a few here, and there actually is a bit of a difference between each one. Some actually have additional animations that others don't. And I'll go over this and show you guys some examples about this a little bit later. But for now, we're just to know that there are some minor differences about these entities. The animations are all stored in this folder right here called animation. If you click on it, you can see the list of all the animations that are available for the player body. And if you scroll down, it's quite a bit. There's actually two types of files here. There's 3D objects, which I believe is a FBX file format. Then there's a .anm file, and this is the actual animation itself. So there's two files here. I actually went ahead and created a spreadsheet with these animations here. I'll link it in the description. I'll show it on screen here. This pretty much has every single animation that can be performed by a player body, whether it be like whether it be stored in the default player model, or the player 4 model, or the player 9 model. All of them are here, and you can actually go ahead and try to play them. But like I said, I'm going to show you guys how you can see some of these animations and see which player models actually have what animations, because not all of these will be available in every player model. So I'll go ahead and show you guys that. But again, the link for that will be in the description of the video. So let's go ahead and go back here now. And what I want to do now is the player.ent file, and again the player.4ent file. These are the entity files for the player. I want to open a few of these up and just kind of poke around, have a look at what animations are there. So let's go ahead and do that. I have my .ent files to open with the model editor by default, but you can find the model editor by going back to the root directory of the Amnesia Rebirth folder, and if you scroll down, you'll find the model editor right here. You can go ahead and open it up and then do file open, and then just select this file right here. You can also right click the entity file here and say open with, choose another app, and then search manually for the model editor application in the root directory of Amnesia Rebirth. That's what I did. You can do the same, that way you have it like mine, where you can just double click it and then it'll go ahead and just open up the model for us, which is very convenient, a lot easier than having to open up a model editor every time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit spacebar on this window here just to enlarge the window, and then we can go ahead and see the player model. This is the Tassie basic player model, the default one, same one that should be in your custom store when you first start up your game. When you first start up like your own mod, this is the default player model that's used by the developers. This is exactly how you start out the story as well. So what I'm going to do now, as you notice, there are no arms here, and when we play back the animations, I kind of want to see the arms. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the mesh here for her arms here. I'm going to hit ... here, click textures, do technical, and I'm just going to put simple gray. So I'm just going to put like a gray color on the arms here so that we can see her arms. And then we'll do the same thing for the other one, so that we can also see that arm as well. So we'll say technical, simple gray, and there it is. Her arms are visible to us. Now to actually see the animations that are available for this entity specifically, we can hit the gears right here, and then we can say edit animations right here, and then here are all the available animations that we can play on this player model, on this entity file for this player body, and we can actually select any of them. So let's say we do let's say run left, I guess. We'll hit play here, and you can see that's the running animation they use when you run sideways. We can click some other ones. This is run forward left arm, so it's just the left arm, and yeah, you can pretty much click on any of these. I guess jump fall, this is, I guess, for when you're falling down. Jump land, so this is when you land. And yeah, these are pretty much all the player models that can be played by this entity, this player entity model. So you can definitely play around with that. What we're gonna do now is let's open up a different entity and just kind of see where there are some of the differences between these animations here. So let's go ahead and actually let me mute my speakers here because it's actually playing here. You guys should still be able to hear the audio though. And yeah, so let's open up another entity here. So let's go down. I'm gonna go to, let's do player 6 here. So we'll open player 6, and when it opens up, we'll do the same thing. We'll hit spacebar in the window down at the bottom right here, and then we'll zoom in here, and you can see this is player 6. This is 6-month pregnant Tassie. And we can do the same thing with her arms here, so we can see the animations playing. We'll say textures, technical, simple gray, and we'll copy that for the other arm as well. Textures, technical, simple gray. And now we can see the arm models here for Tassie. Now we're gonna hit the gears and we're gonna take a look at some of the animations here. And there are some different ones. I will show you specifically a few that I know of, and this is also on this spreadsheet here that I have. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna press Control F. We're gonna type in Leon, and this is for the part in the story where the player is attacked by Leon here. So player attacked by Leon, who eventually recognizes her. So that should be an animation. Of course, you don't know which one it belongs to. So if we have a look here on the player 6 entity model, let's just type in Leon, and then we'll hit enter here. You can actually search in here, and you can see player attacked by Leon, who eventually recognizes her. So that's the same one on the spreadsheet. We'll go ahead and play it just so we can kind of just see what's going on, and we can move in here just same as in the level editor. You can hold Alt and move around the camera and stuff, and you can see some stuff's happening. It looks like she's got picked up by Leon. She's fighting with Leon, and yeah, and then she gets dropped or whatever. So let's go ahead and look for the same animation now on the other one here for the default player, the non-pregnant Tassie, the generic one. And let's put Leon up here, and let's see if we get any result here. So we go Leon, and you can see there's nothing in here. There's one for player grab by Leon on their buddy crusher, but there's none specifically with that same animation name that we put in before. So if you try to play that animation on this player model specifically, it's not going to play. So you need to make sure that if you want to play an animation, make sure that it's available here for the player entity. This is the default one. If you're using one of the other ones, make sure that's the case. You can technically add it to this one. Of course, I would not recommend modifying any of the default entities in the game. If you're gonna if you want to add one, you could just say add new animation, and then add the animation for that like the Leon one that I just showed you, that if you really want to use it. But if you do that, you should be saving this player model as a brand new player model to your custom story. So you can see here, these are all the animations. You can play it, check to make sure it works properly. There's no guarantee that it will work properly, although the skeleton and proportions are very similar, so they most likely will work. and then you can save it. I do save as and save it as a new one, but I won't be showing that here. Maybe in a future episode we'll talk about custom player models and stuff like that, and that could be something we go over. But in terms of this case, we won't be touching any of the animations that are currently available. And notice we say it says modified here. Make sure you don't save anything. You don't want to overwrite any of your game's files or anything like that. So be very careful not to save anything when you're playing with these things here. Just use them for reference. So with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and move on to the next thing we'll be talking about, and that's the actual playing of the animations and how we can choose different player models and stuff. So let's go ahead and open up CodeLight here. And here we are in our script file. So before we even move on to anything, I just want to show you first the function that you would use to change your player model. So if we go to the top of the script here, in the setup box here, void setup, we can go ahead and add a line if we wanted to change the player model. We could say like player body, and then we're gonna put underscore after that. And we'll do select. What's the? I'm trying to remember the model, or it was set model here, and then it's going to be the name of the player model. So you could do like player 6, and then you'd end up with pregnant Tassie, 6-month pregnant Tassie, or you could do 4 or 9, whichever ones are the appropriate player models that you're looking for. So so you could do that. I won't be changing that, at least not in this episode. So I will just comment this out, but this will be linked in the Pastebin below, along with the rest of the functions that we use if you wanted to change the player model. So just remember, if let's say you wanted to play that player attacked by Leon model or animation, you need to make sure you're on player 6, or it won't play properly. So just a note, always make sure the animation you want to play is available for the player model that you've selected, if you've changed it at all. And with that, let's go ahead and move on now to the actual playing animations. So for this episode, since there's a lot of modifications we're gonna make, and a lot of I'm gonna have to start up the game a lot, kind of show you guys a lot of the mixed things that can happen when you're playing with animations and stuff. I'm going to constantly be jumping in between the game and the scripting here, so I'm not actually going to do any cuts in this episode. All of it will be live. We'll be jumping between both the game and the script here, so we won't have any cuts or anything like that. So let's go ahead and get started with some of the functions. So first, I want to go ahead and show you guys how you can play an animation. So let's go ahead and talk about that command. We're going to put it here inside of the onCollide player trigger 1 trigger area that we have here. For those unfamiliar, I will go over it right now. We have a trigger area here at the beginning of our level. We spawn right here, and we have a trigger area right here called trigger 1. And when the player collides with this trigger area, we call a function called onCollide player trigger 1, and that brings us back to this one here in our script. So this is onCollide player trigger 1 here, and when all state equals 1, it means that the player just entered the trigger area, which means we can execute whatever code is in here, and then we return false because we don't want the script to run again once it executes once already. So that's why we return false here. Otherwise, if it's not equal to 1, it probably means that the player left the area, but we don't really care what happens when the player leaves the area, only when they enter. So we just return false here. We don't really do anything here. And that's pretty much the description of the trigger area. So let's go ahead and now talk about this playing an animation. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and say player body underscore, and we're going to say play animation. And you'll see all the values right here. So there's a few variables that we need to put in here. I will cover some of these. Some of these I don't actually have proper definitions for, because they don't actually note any of the note what the functions do, and the developers either just don't use it in their story, and source code is also not available for some of these functions too, so I can't actually even see what it does. So I would just kind of give it my best guess and let you guys know what I think it does, or if I have any clue what it does. And if you guys know what it does, you can always comment in the description, but I do know what a majority of these do, and I will go ahead and go over them now. So before we do that, let's talk about layers here. So one of the variables, the second one we're gonna have to put here, is the player body animation layer, and every animation plays on a layer of the player's body. So for example, the right arm is a layer, the left arm is a layer, the full body is the full layers, it's all the layers combined, and every animation plays on a layer. And you can actually see that if we go back to the model editor here, and we go back to the animations here, we hit edit animations. If we click like on one random one here, you can see this one plays on the body layer. If we go ahead and go to this one plays on the left arm layer. This one plays on the right arm layer. And then you can see these, they all have pretty much their own layer. This one's full body, and that's probably because every part of the player's body will move. If you wanted to play this animation, but you only wanted to like do the arms here, like this one that looks like a ladder, right? Climb right, detach bottom. So if like you only wanted to play the arms, you could not put full body, and you could do like right arm or left arm, and it will only play that layer of the animation. So if you only wanted to play parts of it, you could do something like that. Although if you want to play the whole animation, of course, whatever the layer is here, you want to go ahead and use that animation layer. So let's go ahead and give you guys an example now. We'll go ahead and do one now. What we're going to do is I'm going to bring over this screen here, and we're going to type in ghoul, or we have to put it right here. We're going to go ahead and type in ghoul, and I'm going to look for one specifically. I believe it's ghoul dragged by player or something like. There's a few here, but we're going to do I believe it's dragged by ghoul. Yep, right here, dragged by ghoul. And this is I'm going to use this one specifically because I want to demonstrate why the differences between like a cutscene and just playing our animation outright. So we're gonna go ahead and copy this one here. We're gonna say dragged by ghoul, and we can put it here just to kind of search it here, and then we'll go ahead and play it so we can see what we're working with here. So it's like Tassie pretty much being dragged by a ghoul here, and this is the one we want to play here. So let's go ahead and minimize this here. All right, so let's talk about how we can play that dragged by ghoul animation. So just to verify one more thing, let's make sure when we go over here on the dragged by ghoul animation, we are working with the full body layer here. So let's make sure when we select the layer, it is the full body layer. So we're gonna go ahead and now type in player body underscore play animations. It's the one right here. Let's go ahead and hit enter here. We're gonna go ahead and paste in the dragged by ghoul name here. We're gonna do comma space, and we're gonna say ePlayer body animation layer, and we want the full body one. The other ones are listed here too, the right arm, the body and stuff, and the arms. So if they are on a different layer, you can go ahead and select them, but we just need the full body one here for this one. So we're gonna hit comma space here now, and now we want to go ahead and give a true or false for whether or not the animation should loop. This is not a looping animation. This is just the this is just gonna be the player like falling and getting dragged. So we don't want to loop that, otherwise the player is just going to continuously keep falling and getting dragged continuously. So this is not an animation that loops, so we're going to hit false here. Now for this one, this is actually one of the ones that I do not have a definition for. This one is this one's actually always set to be false by the developers. Every instance where they play an animation, this is always set to false. So I'd recommend just leaving this to false. Again, there's no description for these, and there's no source code that I can see because that's blocked. So I'm only gonna just say, if anybody knows what the what this does, go ahead and leave a comment description. But I haven't been able to get a result out of this one, whether it be true or false. But again, developer set this to false, so let's go ahead and do false here. So next, return to idle after animation. So if you want the player to go back to their idle animation on whatever layer you're playing this on, they will return to idle on that layer. So if you do want that to be the case, you hit true here. In this case, we will actually set this to true for in this video when I show you guys an example. But right now we're just going to set this to false because we're actually not going to be changing out of this state, at least for this immediate demo here. So we're going to hit comma, we're going to hit space. And now the next option here is fade time. So this is how long it should take until the animation reaches its full its full location where it's going to play and everything. Like the animation, like if the arm is going to be up to above the player's head, this will take 1 second for that player's arm to be all the way up above their head. So it's the time it takes to transition into the animation. So you can actually set something here. Actually, the only required values are the first three right here: false, false, and false. So you actually don't need any of these other ones, but we'll go over what these would do if you did want to use them. So again, fade time, how much time it will take to fade into the animation. So you can just put whatever here, but this is a float, so we're going to do 1.0f. We'll do comma space here. Next is the speed. So this one's pretty self-explanatory, how fast the animation should play through. So this is like a multiplier, but if you just want default playback speed, you can just do 1.0f, but feel free to play around with these numbers however you feel. Relative time position, this is actually the position in the animation that you want to start playing from. So if the animation is like 5 seconds long and you want to start on like the second, you can go ahead and put like 2.0f here, and it'll start 2 seconds into the animation. And finally is fade weights. This is another one that I have no description for. This one is another one that the devs never change from true. This one's always set to true by default. And this is never set to be false. So again, no description, no source code. Just use true by default here, and you should be fine if you're going to go this far. But again, none of these are required values. The only one that are required are the ones prior to this one here that I have selected. So I'm actually going to go ahead and remove them. We're not going to use any of those values here in the demonstration today. Just the first three here. But feel free to mess around with those other ones that are there if they interest you when you're playing an animation. So with that, now let's go ahead and load up our game and have a look at this. So again, again, we have the game right here, so we're just gonna open it up right here, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit F5 here to just restart my game here, and here I am, I'm restarted. I have it set to restart me back to the beginning of spawn here. I did that by pressing F1 and then deselecting this checkbox here, because it just makes it easier for me to come back here and not respawn in the same spot. But that's F1 to do that and F5 to reset. So let's go ahead now and walk through our trigger area that we specified, and we're gonna go ahead and do that, and we're gonna end up falling down to that drag animation. And if you notice something here, we have like full control of our player. We can actually move. It kind of looks kind of ridiculous. We're going to run around too and everything. We can jump. And this is where I'm going to go ahead and now mention the whole thing about cutscenes and playing animations. So if you play if you play a cutscene, it pretty much follows the player's head throughout the animation, and doesn't actually and it's not actually supposed to be controlled by the player when the cutscene plays. When we play an animation, you're intending for the player to actually have control of the player. So if it was a cutscene, you do play cutscene animation. If you're just doing an animation, you just say play animation. So when you play the animation, again, they have full control of the player body, and they can run around. And obviously, it looks insanely ridiculous because this is the current playing animation that we have on the body and everything. So this one would not be a cutscene that you'd play using play animation. This would be play cutscene animation. It'd make more sense as a play cutscene animation, and that's what we'll be talking about in the next episode. So to see that, just hang on until the next episode. Check that out when it comes out. But again, this is not one that we'd use in this episode today. We'll talk about a proper use for playing animations using these functions that we're talking about today. So with that, let's go ahead and go back to our script file here now. And now let's go ahead and play a proper animation that actually looks a lot better than this one. So it's actually going to be the player right arm protect from storm start. That's this one right here. Again, that is available in the spreadsheet, or if you look through the default player animations, you can see it. Actually, I'll pull it up here just so we can look at that layer again. I'm gonna type in storm, and there it is, player right arm protect from storm start. There's loop and there's end, and I'll talk a little bit more about how we would play that sequence in a little bit. But if we go ahead and do the storm start, we play. You can see that the player like brings up their hand to their face to kind of cover from the storm, and that only plays on the right arm layer here. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna pretty much keep this whole line the exact way it is, but we wanted to go ahead and change this section right here. I'm gonna hit Control Space here, and I'm gonna go ahead and make sure I select right arm because this is only playing on the right arm here. And then let's go ahead and go back to our game here. Let's go ahead and hit F5 again just to restart back from the beginning. And now let's go ahead and go here again to our triggered area. And you can see now this animation kind of covers the player's face while they're in the storm. And this one makes a lot more sense to play as an animation because this one we can actually walk around. So imagine we were in like a snowstorm. We'd be walking around with our hand in our face as we walk and everything like that. And at some point when you get out of the storm, you could lower your hand out of your face, and that makes a lot more sense than an animation like being dragged and then running around while we're being dragged and stuff. Clearly doesn't make sense. That'd be more of a cutscene animation. And again, that's something we'll talk about in the next episode. But for animations like this, when we do play animation, this is kind of what it's intended to be used for. So we can like cover a face from a storm, or if there is an animation for like the player having a headache and bringing their hands to their head and walking around with their hands to their head, that'd be another one, or anything like that of the sort. Of course, like when you have your when you're holding a match, that's technically an animation you're playing as well, holding the match in your hand and stuff like that. So that's pretty much what these animations would be used for when you play them the way we are going to be playing them today. And yeah, so now let's talk about a little bit more of how we'd actually use this properly in a situation where we want to use this. So let's go ahead and go back to the Cold Light application here. So now let's imagine the player steps out of a building and there's like a snowstorm going on, and we want to use this animation here to play. And when the player enters an area, they'll cover their face. When they leave the area, meaning like they got back inside of a cave or something like that, they'll go ahead and bring their hands down from their face because there's no need to cover their hands from the storm or anything like that. So I'm gonna give you an example of that, but of course there's so many implementations you can do with this kind of stuff that this is not necessarily the right way. You can do this in sequences. You can do this with 2 different trigger areas. I'm going to show you a very basic way to do this. That'd be perfectly viable to use in a situation where you might need it. So let's go ahead and open up our level editor here. And what we're going to do now, we're going to put a trigger area in this hallway here. What I'm thinking of doing is when the player enters this hallway, let's pretend like there's like a whole bunch of smoke in the building or something like that, and the player's kind of covering their face from the smoke or something like that, or the flames. Let's say there's a bunch of flames around here or something. Actually, why don't we just throw some flames in here just to make it a little bit fancier, I guess. Let's say let's see, actually, let's see what we have a flame over here. Let's see what it's called, and we're just going to go ahead and use this one just for demonstration purposes here. So that's brazier fire, and that's in the fire category in particles. So let's go ahead and use some of that. So we'll hit the dots here. We'll say dot here. We'll say fire, and we'll say, is there a large one maybe that we can use here? Let's do this one here. It's not that large. Let's just do the regular one here. Yeah, this one's pretty large. Let's just do this one. Let's just slap a few around here. Kind of pretend that the player's like in a fire or something like that. Doesn't make much sense for the story that we have, that we're kind of like trying to make here. But just for examples, we'll go ahead and just drop a bunch around here. So now there's a bunch of flames, and of course we could put like smoke if we wanted to, but it's just a very basic demonstration here. So let's just say the player wants to cover their face when they're in this area here until they get past the stairs here. So what we're going to do is let's go ahead and put down a trigger area. We're going to go ahead and draw it out here. So let's do it here, and we'll do it at least up until the other flames over here, I guess. And let's put it a little high so that it encompasses the whole way. And let's give it a name now. I'm gonna say, let's say trigger cover face or something like that. Trigger cover face or something like that. Because they're gonna, Tassie's gonna cover her face. That's what we want the animation to do. And we're gonna say player here, because when the player collides with this area, we want to go ahead and play the animation. And then let's give the function a name. So we'll follow the convention, and we'll say on collide player. And then we'll say, and then you normally cover the, we normally copy the name up here. So we say like trigger cover face, and yep. So trigger cover face, and we'll go ahead and hit copy here, and now we'll open up our script file here, and let's just paste it right underneath our trigger area, our first trigger area, just so that we can see both things at the same time here. You're gonna kind of format this a little bit. We'll make it like that here, and let's clear out this return true here. We won't need it here. Well, we're gonna put a return true, but we're gonna do it inside of an if statement here. So now that we have the trigger area created, let's check to make sure that the player entered the area. So we can do that by saying if, then we'll do open and close parentheses and open and close curly brace. We'll say all state, and then we'll say equals 1. So if all state equals 1, it means that the player entered the area. So we're going to go ahead and play an animation here. But for now, let's go ahead and just return true here. And we're returning true because we don't want this trigger area to clear when we leave it, because every time the player enters this hallway, we want her to cover her face to protect herself from the flames, or whatever the situation is, whatever the animation we want to play in this scenario is. We're just going to go ahead and return true because we want it to happen every single time. And then we'll go ahead and then put else here, so the player leaves the area. If all state is equal to 0, it means the player leaves the area. So we will say else here, because if it's not 1, it's going to be 0 by default. So now here we can go ahead and like stop the animation or play a different animation. And again, we're going to talk about that now. And then let's go ahead and just return true here. So we'll say return true. And we'll go ahead and close it here, because again, we don't want to delete the trigger area, so we should be returning true in these cases here. So with that, we kind of have the outline here for what we're going to do. So when the player enters the trigger area, we want the player to cover her face, and when she leaves, we want to go ahead and bring her hand down and just kind of go back to just being in our regular idle state without her hand in her face anymore. So first thing we're gonna do, let's go ahead and play the animation. So let's actually go ahead and just copy this one here. We'll actually cut it out here so it doesn't play back here in the first area. We'll paste it right here, and we'll say, you know, player right arm protect from storm, and we'll leave the same thing. It's not gonna loop. It's not gonna go back to idle when it's done playing. So since it's not going to go back to idle when it's not looping and everything, we're gonna have to you know, stop it ourselves and everything like that. So let's talk about that, and I'm going to show you guys a few ways that we're going to stop it, just because some animations have like an ending animation that brings the player back to being idle and stuff like that. Some don't. So I kind of just want to show you a few ways you can go ahead and stop animations and stuff. So let's talk about now the player body stop animation. So I'm going to say player body stop animation. This is one right here, and you can, as you can see, it needs the name of the animation and how much time it should take for the animation to fade out. And the fade out time is exactly the same as I explained previously with the fade in. It's if Tassie has her hand in her face and you specify 5 seconds, it's going to take her 5 seconds to bring her hand all the way down back down to her waist or stop the animation altogether. So let's go ahead and do this, and then we'll go ahead and the animation we want to stop is this one right here, the right arm protect from storm start that we put up here, and we'll fade it out over 1 second here. So we'll say 1.0 F here. We'll close it out with a semicolon. So now let's just cover kind of what's happening here. We're going to go ahead and play the right arm cover animation on the right arm layer. No loop, no back to idle. We're gonna keep this trigger area alive after any of the code here executes, because we want this to happen every single time. And then once the player leaves the area, we're gonna go ahead and stop that animation that we played initially. So let's go ahead and go back to our game here, and let's go ahead and hit F5 just to restart everything. And you'll notice actually that when we go in here, it's not going to actually work exactly correct. And of course, this is part of the reason why I wanted to kind of do this kind of interaction here. So we're going to go ahead and actually, I think I forgot to save the level. So let's go here and let's hit save here. So now that's saved, let's go ahead and go back and restart the game one more time here. So now let's go back over there. So and this is part of the reason why I wanted to show you guys this, even though I know it's not going to work right. So again, there's the flames and everything. So we're going to step out into here. Now Tassie's going to cover her face because, you know, there's a whole bunch of flames or whatever. That's what we're going for here. So she's going to cover her hands, her face with her hand and everything. Now let's go ahead and leave the area and see what happens here. We're going to leave, and you can see her hand came down. But if we look down, you see her hand's not back at her side here. It's actually, I don't know if we'll be able to see it here. You can kind of see it in the corner of the right side. She's actually in a T pose. And the reason for that is because we didn't tell her to go back into her idle animation. So if we don't connect it with an ending animation, or we don't loop it and then just tell it to go back to idle, it actually will not go back to idle. It will just go to no animation on the arm, meaning she's just going to stay in a T pose. And obviously that's not what we want. So in the events where you encounter this, you need to kind of do something about it. What we're going to do is make a new line here, and we're going to go ahead and play another animation. So I'm actually going to copy this one right here. And we're going to paste it right here. So if we go ahead and go to the player entity here, and let's just type in idle. There should be a few idle animations, but there is an idle stand right arm. Of course, there's left arm. There's just standing for the body. So this one's for the body. This one's for the left arm. This one's for the right arm. So we're going to do the specific one for the right arm because that's what we have here. If we play it, it's just the idle animation with her arm on her side like this. So that's what we want to go ahead and have here. So we're going to go ahead and pretty much paste that in and put that in here, the name of that animation. So we're going to go ahead and hit here and clear this out, and we're going to go ahead and say idle stand R arm, which is the name of that right arm idle animation. And again, it will be the right arm animation layer because that's the one that we're working with here. And of course, all of this will be false and stuff. We don't need any of these modifiers, so we're just going to put her back in idle and stuff. So we're going to go ahead and hit save here. And let's go ahead and come back here, and let's go ahead and restart here again. So we're going to hit F5 here to restart our game. And let's go ahead and hit back out here and go back out into the hallway now. So we're going to go ahead and step out here. So there we're covering our face and everything. Now we're going to go past our barrier here, and it should fade out, and you can see her arm went right back to being idle and everything. Exactly what should happen. And we can go ahead and and just start walking and everything like that. And her arm is back to normal, back to being idle and everything like that. And we can run around with it and everything, and it will all follow and whatnot. So that brings it back to her side and everything. So that works. That's one way you could do it. If you have an animation that has no like end animation for some reason, you can always go back to being idle on whatever part of the body it is by using the appropriate idle animation that I showed you. You could look at it in the that you saw here when we searched it up and whatnot. So crouch also has like an idle animation for stuff. So you can also look at those too. That does it for that, but we're gonna do this a little bit more proper, I guess would be the way to say it. So let's go ahead and make some changes to this now. So we're still gonna leave the protect arm from storm start, up face from the storm and everything. That's not gonna change. What we're gonna do is we're not gonna use a stop animation. We're gonna go ahead and clear this. We're actually gonna play another animation. If you recall this protect from storm animation, we'll go ahead and type in storm here. It has an ending animation, and we play it. It's her bringing her hand back down to her side and, you know, going back to like an idle state. So we can actually just use that animation, to go ahead and bring the player's arm back to being idle here. So to do that, we're gonna go ahead and let's just copy the name here. And this is going to be end at the end here, so I'm going to say end. I'm going to go ahead and save that. And then we're going to go ahead and select this last one. Remember, this last value was whether or not the player should go back to idle after the animation is over. So when the player puts her arm down from her face, because we're playing the storm end animation here, and she's gonna go. We want it to go back into being idle after the animation plays. So in this case, we want to toggle this to be true. I'm gonna say true here. So the player will go back to the idle animation for whatever layer it is. So since this is the right arm, she will go back to her right arm idle animation. After she finishes playing this from protect from storm end animation here, which is her bringing her hand down from her face. So let's go ahead and open up our game here again. We'll hit F5 one more time. And we're back here now, so let's go ahead and go back over and let's go ahead and check it out, see what it looks like now. So we'll open the door, we'll go ahead and walk through here. She'll bring up her hand to her face. We'll go ahead and go through here now. So she should bring this right back down to her waist. And that's pretty much it. She's gone back to idle and everything. We can go ahead and start running and stuff. And her arm is back at her side once again. And it all looks normal and everything. So that's definitely the more proper way to do it. Technically, not the completely correct way to do it. A completely correct way to do it would be to also play the loop animation. There is a loop animation here. You can see protect from storm loop. So to kind of tell you the full proper way to do this, I think this works fine. It's a lot simpler, and for showing you guys for the first time learning animations and stuff like that, it's gonna the way I showed you guys is definitely plenty fine. But the proper way would probably be to first play this storm start animation here, protect from storm start, then waiting for the animation to finish, wait a few seconds for the animation to finish, and then what you do is you play the loop animation. This has small little motions on her fingers and stuff when she's holding her hands to her face. Looks a bit kind of like an idle animation. So you'd play the loop, and then when you don't need her to have her hand in her face anymore, you'd play the end animation. Actually, I should play the loop here so you can see it's just her holding, and you can see her little fingers moving and stuff. But yeah, that'd be the true proper way to do this. It'd be to play the storm start animation. She brings it up to her face, then the loop animation plays here until she's out of the storm completely. Like I said, it has these small little movements, and then when she's done and out of the storm or out of the flames, whatever, you play the storm end animations. The full proper way to play those animations, but this is just a more simple way of playing it so you guys can kind of get the understanding of the way it works. And I also want to kind of show off some of the animations, how to play some of the animations for you guys. So now let's go ahead and talk about talk about one last one here today, and that's going to be the play additive animation here. So you can play an animation on top of a currently playing animation, as long as it's not in the same layer and in a different layer. So let's talk about how we can go ahead and play that. So we're actually going to use this that we have here already, and we're going to go ahead and play it alongside with another animation here. So what we're going to do is up here where we're first protecting ourselves from the storm, we're going to play another additive animation along with this one here. And let's just say we wanted the player, this is again for demonstration purposes, but let's just say we wanted the player to both be crouched and holding her hand to her face. So what we're going to do is we're going to say player body underscore play, control space here, play, and we're going to say additive animation. And this one uses less values here, less you can control about it. And let's go ahead and hit enter, kind of start talking about it. So the first value here is the name of the animation we want to play. We'll talk about which one we're going to use here. Next is loop, whether the animation should loop or not. We're going to go ahead and we'll say, I don't think we need to loop this one. We'll say false here. We'll say false here. I don't think we need to loop this one. Or actually, I think this one needs to loop. We're gonna do a crouch animation, so this one should loop. So we're gonna say true here. We do want the crouch idle animation to loop here. So we'll do comma space here. Now, how long is it gonna take to fade in? Let's just say 1.0 f. And we actually need to provide all these values here. It is required for playing the additive animation. And then next is going to be the speed that the animation is going to play at. So we're going to say 1.0 f. 1.0 f is just default speed, no multiplier applied to it. And then the last time is relative time position. At what point do we want to start the animation? Again, we're going to do 0.0 f because we wanted to start from the beginning. And we'll close out the whole thing with a semicolon. And again, I wanted to play like a crouch animation while the player has their hands in their face and everything. So if we go ahead and bring this up here and we search up crouch, we'll get a few ones here. The one I think I want to play is just the idle crouch animation, which I believe is looping animations. This one right here. We can go ahead and play it so we can see what it looks like. Yeah, so it's just kind of Tassie sitting there, crouched and everything. So that's what we want to play. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're gonna say crouch underscore idle, and we'll go ahead and save that there. So now the player will be crouched while protecting yourself from the storm. And just like we had to play like an end animation here, we have to stop the crouch idle animation. We're just going to use the player body stop animation function here to stop this one. But if there were like an appropriate one to end it, you could use the appropriate one to end it. In this case, we're just going to kind of just stop the animation altogether. I'm going to say crouch idle, comma space, or crouch idle. We'll do comma space 1.0 f, and we'll close it out with a semicolon here. And then go ahead and hit save here. And then now let's go ahead and go back into our game and kind of see what this looks like now. So let's hit F5 here and restart into the game, into the beginning of our game. And let's run over and go through this hallway again. So again, we're gonna go here. And you can see now we're crouched. Our left arm is still in the regular standing idle animation. So it is gonna actually just stay like that. You could, of course, play another additive animation with her left arm being idle as well. But you can see we have our hands to our face. We are crouched, and both animations are playing simultaneously. And of course, when we step out of the area here, both will come to a stop. So her legs, her leg animation will stop, her arm animation will stop, and we're back to just normal idle animations for Tassie and whatnot. So that's how we can play additive animations and kind of combine different animations to get kind of different effects. So those are a few of the ones. I think I'm going to wrap up the episode here, guys. We'll talk about some more functions in the coming episodes too. The next one is probably going to be about cutscenes, and we'll talk about like how we can play these kind of cutscenes where like she gets grabbed and thrown around and stuff. We might use that Leon one to kind of show you guys what kind of like that looks like when we play it as a cutscene and whatnot. So with that, I'll end it here. We do have some more functions to talk about, but I don't want to make the video too long here. We will definitely have a part 2 on animations. We still haven't even talked about interactive animations, so that's definitely another one we're going to talk about soon. So with that, we're going to wrap it up here today, and tomorrow, and in the next episode, we will be talking about cutscenes. So I'll see you guys for that one. Make sure you subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Leave a comment if there's anything you have on your mind, and make sure you leave a like on the video as well. Have a good one, guys. Bye.